Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Binyamin, Tjong-Alvares with global economic news. Coming up, thousands of Banco Espirito's clients are likely to remain penniless, and India's growing water crisis. First, the headlines. The crash of Germanwings flight 4U9525, in which all 150 passengers and crew are presumed dead, is a heavy blow for its parent, Lufthansa. Lufthansa has a good safety record and last had a fatal accident in 1993, which only claimed 2 casualties. But its pilots went on strike for 3 days last week, following 15 strike days last year, 8,600 flight cancellations, and 232 million euros in costs. Competition by low-budget airlines have also weighed on Lufthansa's profits, causing it to take on the low-cost Germanwings brand. As Britain prepares for a crucial election that might see its exit from the EU, one think tank shows the UK's GDP would not suffer much from a Brexit. According to a report by think tank Open Europe, the UK's GDP under the worst-case scenario would only drop by 2.2%. Its best-case scenario would see the UK's GDP rise 1.6% if it were to choose a Brexit. But the report also stressed that to be successful, the UK would have to be at least as open to the world as it is now.
But as I said, I think if the UK is to make a success out of leaving the EU, that does mean becoming more competitive. That means deregulating. It means striking free trade agreements or opening our trade relationship with other countries around the rest of the world.
French construction giant Vinci denied claims of using forced labor on building projects for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The Sherpa NGO submitted a claim in a French court against Vinci for forced labor, servitude, and concealment. The NGO said on-site investigations found Vinci forced vulnerable people into scandalous working and living conditions for a paltry salary. 83% of Qatar's population and 94% of its workforce are expats. The decision to award the 2022 World Cup to the tiny Gulf state has caused controversy and raised allegations of corruption at FIFA.
The testimonies reveal terrible, even dangerous working conditions. All the workers could see people who have died around them, often of a heart attack or cardiac arrest, and they are afraid that the same thing will happen to them. They are housed in inhumane conditions and work for a salary which bears no relation to the job they do and does not allow them to provide for their families.
Hutchison Whampoa agreed to acquire Telefónica's O2 unit in the UK for $15.3 billion. The deal paves the way for Hutchison to merge its 3.com business with O2, creating the UK's largest wireless provider with more than 30 million subscribers. With more wireless subscriptions than people, carriers in the UK have been busy preparing for consolidation. Last month, former phone monopoly BT Group bought Deutsche Telekom and Orange's mobile venture EE for $18.6 billion. 3G Capital, the Brazilian private equity group that controls Burger King and Heinz, may acquire Kraft Foods Group for as much as $40 billion. The Wall Street Journal on Tuesday reported that a source close to the matter said the two companies were in advanced talks regarding the acquisition. Kraft shares jumped 16.5% in after-hours trading following the report, giving Kraft a $42 billion valuation. 3G's growth has relied strongly on big acquisitions, but acquiring Kraft would be its biggest operational challenge yet. And as with previous acquisitions, major cost reductions, large layoffs, and closing factories would be likely to follow. Last year's collapse of Banco Espirito Santo, one of Portugal's biggest banks, left many clients in dire financial straits. And as 5,000 clients saw at least 500 million euros of their investments disappear, there are no indications of their money ever being repaid.
Angry scenes outside this bank in Viseu in central Portugal are now an all-too-common sight. When one of Portugal's biggest banks, Banco Espirito Santo, collapsed last year under a mountain of debt, its healthy operations were spun off into the newly created Novo Banco. In recent weeks, many of the 5,000 angry customers who have lost their savings have become increasingly vocal in demanding their money back.
There are people here who have no money to eat. They need their money to live. This is their life savings. They have saved a lifetime to have that money. The banking system has failed to protect them. And now we get to a situation where we can no longer refrain from calling this stealing.
The majority of those facing difficulties are retirees or those on low incomes. One such victim is Marta Lestro. Her brother was left severely handicapped after a traffic accident. The compensation money he received from his insurance company was tied up in Banco Espirito Santo. That money disappeared along with the collapse of the bank.
The money was put in an Espirito Santo deposit account to help with the situation of my brother Rui, for the day my parents would no longer be with us and that I should take over. At first we didn't understand what had happened, but when we went to the bank we realised all our savings were gone.
As poupanças que lá estavam para garantirem o nosso futuro desapareceram.
73-year-old Albino is another victim. Working since the age of 14, he lost the entirety of his life savings, around €100,000, in an investment his bank counsellor told him was risk-free with guaranteed returns. Today, he no longer has the resources to maintain his greenhouses, which are slowly falling apart.
It's really sad, because this is where I worked, where I liked to be. And when I see what it's becoming, and that I don't have the money to pay for the upkeep, it's really very sad, very sad. We know that nothing lasts forever and that everything must have an end. But when the end is so sad, it's really horrible.
The new chief of Novo Banco says the bank is not responsible for the toxic investments made by its collapsed predecessor, leaving clients who have lost a total of over €500 million doubtful that what was theirs may ever be returned.
News and social media, a match made in heaven? 1.4 billion Facebook users may soon be able to read the news from the comfort of their own profile on their mobile device of choice. Course. With us to get a better understanding of what lies behind this pending deal is social media expert Joseph Greencorn, founder of the Morris Group companies. Mr. Greencorn, thanks for joining us.
How are you? Good to be here.
Good, good, good. You're one of the few analysts that actually called the downturn and the upturn of Facebook surrounding the IPO. What is happening? What is behind this pending deal? Where's Facebook going?
Well, Facebook is going, only upwards. Facebook is doing everything right. User engagement is up quarter after quarter. Ad dollars, especially on mobile, are up quarter after quarter.
Yeah.
And users are spending more and more time on Facebook on a regular basis. And just like you said earlier, 1.4 billion users and growing. Hopefully in the next few months, they're going to cross that 1.5 billion user mark, which is amazing.
The whole idea behind this news feed that they would have, essentially they already have the connection to the news channels, so to speak, to the media. This would basically leave Facebook users more on Facebook. Is that the concept behind this?
Yeah, what Facebook is trying to do, again, is, of course, keep growing the user base. So people that are into news and maybe somewhat into Facebook, they want to get those users to cross on over to Facebook and only use the Facebook platform for engagement. So again, more eyeballs on Facebook, and again, users spending more time on Facebook, which is very, very valuable.
Is this one of the main drivers you see? Are there other drivers, other things pushing up Facebook?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are pushing up, the stock at this current moment right now. First of all, of course, there's several weeks ago, Facebook Messenger just announced their person-to-person money wire system where people will be able to send money back and forth to each other almost cost-free, which is a very, very big deal. They're slowly testing that right now as we speak. Really, aside from that, is Facebook's big acquisition of Instagram. Everyone remembers that as $1 billion just a few years ago.
A lot of money.
And everyone was saying, wow, they spent so much money, et cetera, et cetera. But we value actually Instagram right now independently at somewhere around $40 billion.
$40 billion. 40 times what they actually bought it for.
40, yeah, so it's one of the best investments made in the private market. And of course, as of recently, just as you said, they're looking to dip their toe into the news forum. Yeah. And they're talking with sites like the Wall Street Journal and BuzzFeed and how to profit share and how to gain content straight through Facebook.
Why is the stock doing so well? I mean, it's based on all of these deals that they're involved with, all the acquisitions. That's what's driving the stock.
Yes, I think it's much more collectively. Again, it's everything kind of doing everything kind of working together, so to speak.
Yeah.
Facebook is really, again, they keep innovating, they keep driving users forward, and again, they're trying to be new and different each day and month going forward as well.
Okay, well, Mr. Greencorn, it'll be very interesting to find out more about what's happening with Facebook, and I'm sure we'll have you again to hear more about the social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
India is the second largest user of groundwater in the world after China. And as the quality of groundwater worsens due to the country's dismal state of sanitation, 114 million Indians may soon face desperate domestic, agricultural, and industrial shortages. Here's more by i24 News journalist Daniel Roth.
World Water Day took place over the weekend, and around the world, droughts have been taking a toll on cities and countryside alike, from LA to Australia and Brazil to Taiwan. The constant creep of climate change is causing havoc in water systems, leaving drinking and sewage in trouble. In India, decades of population growth and urbanization and a lack of piping systems is leading to a water crisis, as the country's water supply is expected to drop to below 50% of what is needed by 2030, according to the World Resources Institute in Washington. Many rely on deliveries of water, which may not last as a solution.
We had ponds which used to be fed naturally by rain, but the construction of concrete roads and so on obstructed the water flow. As a result, the underground water table has fallen.
In Delhi, the chief minister has promised free water to residents, but population growth means shortages are a reality. And meanwhile, private water mafias are selling water at a premium. Beyond promises, activists are pushing the government to do more amid slow and sometimes corrupt bureaucracies, according to the AFP report.
The water bodies need to be revived, they're deepened, widened, their capacity must be improved, and a woodland must be maintained around them to ensure a fresh purity of water.
As populations grow, a UN report is highlighting over-extraction of groundwater, particularly in India and China, as a major risk to sustainability. The report says 20% of global groundwater is already overdrawn, and the only solution is better management, presumably with public accountability.
And as water crises globally stemming from climate change came to the fore in 2015, we're joined by i24 News journalist Daniel Roth for a closer look at the issues in Media Watch. Daniel.
How's it going?
Good. Water issues.
Well, it's not going so good, actually, when you zoom out and look at what's going on. In India, in China, we're looking at cases of mismanagement, of overuse. Around the world, though, the UN's come out with a recent report saying that 40% of the world will be in water deficit by 2030.
Now we're talking, hold on a second, China and India are the biggest groundwater users in the world.
Right. And
is that the main issue we're looking at here, sanitation?
Well, so there's across the board there are issues. China and India are the biggest users of groundwater, and according to recent reports, 20% of the world's groundwater has already been overdrawn and not replenishing itself. There are natural processes, and when there's overpopulation and when there's not enough regulation and management to go along with it, then you see that water is being overdrawn and the natural processes of refilling aren't able to take place.
Well, China has made very clear that they want climate change, pollution in general that might result from climate change, among others, to be a big agenda item for them. What about India?
India so far is working on getting their growth on track. Of course, Modi, who's taken over last year, the government is working on economic fronts, has spoken a little bit on environmental fronts, but it's not, people still, and in India, in the US, no matter where you're talking about in the world, there's still a dichotomy, a false dichotomy between economy and environment, that governments too often think if you regulate environmental factors, we're going to have to shrink the economy. And it's actually patently false. One recent study found that for every dollar invested in sanitation and drinking water systems, you have $5 return on investment. So you're actually talking about when you're in developing countries instituting new systems and in developed countries bettering those systems, you're talking about a high return on investment. You're talking about economic prosperity. So it's very evident that it's simply not true. When we're talking about saving water, we're also talking about saving economies.
Of course, at the same time, also we deal with a worse sanitation system, worse pollution. There's great costs that come with that also in terms of health, in terms of just the general population basically doing better.
Right. It's across the board. Agriculture suffers, health suffers, across the board.
Okay, well, Daniel, thanks for joining us in that.
Thank you.
That is the end of the Economy Magazine for today. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares. Thank you for joining us. Join us again for more on the economy tomorrow.